Hey, what's up? It's Rob Gordon, the Wingman, out here at Cabrillo, here to do a tutorial on how to backwind. We'll see if I'm able to do it on land here. It's much windier than I expected, and I didn't bring any small wings to do this demonstration on land. But yeah, I got some good footage, and we'll go over the move. No one really watched my video last week of the 360 on the wave. Maybe not enough people are doing that, but I feel like people are interested in backwinding, so let's get to it. It's really hard to do this demonstration right now. It would be better on a wing skate because it's really hard to depower the wing as you're doing the flip around. The best way to learn this trick, in my opinion, is to go through a series of steps. The first step, you need to learn the race jibe. And then after you do that, you might want to do some on the water 360s. And then slowly start to elongate the backwinding portion of your flat water 360 until you can just ride through the move. So let's see if I can talk you guys through that. First step, the race jibe. And I might do some tutorials on each of these steps later, but I don't know, someone asked me for a backwinding video, so I thought I would do it. What's the difference between the race jibe and the duck jibe? The race jibe, you're going to turn the wing down and then kind of pop it back up, whereas the duck jibe is more of a pizza spin. So you're going along. On the race jibe, you're going to bring the front hand down and the back hand up to where you start like this. The wing goes nose down. That's going to pull you through the turn. And then as you start to get around, you can flip the wing back up. Like I said, it's pretty hard to demonstrate it here because of the way that the wind is so swirly and pretty strong.
So here's a better example of the race jibe. We turn the wing down, it pulls us through the turn. When we get around, we flip the wing back up. If it's not windy, you have to flip the wing more. If it's windy, the wing will pull you through the turn. So here we see it in the first person in slow motion, putting the front hand down, back hand up, and then as we get around, we flip the wing and we repower.
The duck jibe, you're going along and you turn downwind more with the board. And then as you get down through the eye of the wind, you kind of just spin the wing more and then repower and ride out the other way. Let's see if I can do that duck jibe. Oh, no, not in this little gust. In this gust, there's no way. I also got some footage of a 360 on the water today. So we'll talk through that, maybe in slow motion. And we can kind of see how in the 360, you backwind for a certain portion of it.
So here's an example of a 360 on the flat water. With this, you start with a race jibe, and then at this point, you're actually getting backwinded over here, and you keep pushing through until you're going the same direction that you started. I'm going really fast here because I'm on the 125, so I have to have a lot of power to stay through this turn. So here, it starts with a race jibe, turning the wing down, and then at this point, you begin to get backwinded. And you could elongate that as long as you want, but if you keep pushing through, then you go back the same direction. It's easier than riding backwinded because you are pushing through that insecure point.
After you get that down, then you can start thinking about how to backwind. Backwinding begins the same way that you would do a race jibe, right? So you're going along, and then you bring the nose down, and you're hoping to eventually get into this position. And then once you're in this position, it's a balancing game between your back hand and your front hand. And that's what's going to power the board and the wing and the foil and let you keep on going. So let me switch to the other side because I can't backwind goofy. I can only backwind my regular way. Some guys like Ken Adgate, they can backwind either direction, go twirly, and do all kinds of things. Let's imagine we're riding along. We initiate the race jibe, so we go down. We're going to let that, now here's where I can't really demonstrate this on land. We're going to let that pull us through the turn. And we're going to keep going until we end up in the position where the wing is now backwinded. There's some pitfalls here. If you go too far, then you're going to end up doing a 360, right? So if you're backwinding and you go too far, we did a 360. If you don't go far enough, then you don't really have enough power to power the foil. You want to end up in that perfect spot where you're feeling the wind in the wing, and each hand is actually opposite of what you're sort of used to. If you push with your backhand, you're actually going to get more power. If you push with your front hand, it's going to take power off of the wing. So it's kind of a weird feeling when you first start doing it. You might just want to get on land and then just practice that balance. And if you're unable to do it on land with a wing skate, which a wing skate would be the best way, what I would recommend is, don't do the race jibe, because you can see that it's not working for me to get in on land from the race jibe into the backwind. Just bring the wing over your head into the wind. That's an easier way to get into the position of feeling the backwinding. One tip is you want to push, like lean over and push harder than you think. It takes more power to backwind than to ride on foil regularly. I was going to today use my bigger foil because a bigger, glidier foil is absolutely way easier to learn how to backwind on. You don't have to be quite so powered up, and the foil will stay on foil. I went with the 125 today because it was actually a really nice day, and I wanted to do some other freestyle stuff. So because of that, I had to go into the move with more power and more speed. If you're on that smaller foil, you got to really look for a strong gust before you go into the backwind. But I got some pretty nice ones today, and I can talk it through really well on the footage. So yeah, when you start to do this, you're going to need a lot of power. You're going to really want to bend over into the wind. Now, the caveat here is, if you do that, sometimes when you're learning, you're going to get wrecked a few times. It's going to happen when you're first learning it. If you go out on that bigger foil, you can do it in lighter wind, and then you might not get wrecked as bad. Yeah, as you're riding along, if you feel like a gust come, you might want to back off on your bearing into the wind and go downwind a little bit. That'll give you a little bit less power. If you're losing power, you might want to push harder into the wind, and that can kind of give you some more power. When I first started doing this trick, I was turning the wing over a little bit too far and kind of keeping it in this position where it's like straight up and down with the strut. It's kind of enticing to do that because it takes away some of that sketchy power distribution. When you go here, it's just kind of like a sail, and you can kind of just push against it, and it's even, and it kind of doesn't really hurt you as bad. That's an option when you first start doing it. If it's windy enough, if you're powered on a big enough foil, you can just kind of go to your race jibe and then go straight up and down, and then that will allow you to feel the move a little bit. But you're probably going to run out of power, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to come out of this just like as if you were finishing the race jibe. You'll pop the wing up and then just repower right out toe side. Okay, so that's the first way to exit the trick. There's a couple of different ways to exit the trick. So you're doing your little move. I'm trying to wait for a lull in the wind so I can show it. So here we go. So you go down, you're getting pulled through the turn. You end up backwinding. Can't show it on land. And then if you feel like you're starting to lose power, you just flip up the back of the wing and then ride out. Your other option, if you're practicing this from the flatwater 360, is just continue riding around and then go out the other way like you're doing the 360. So that's the other option. I was working on this with Luca V, which is you're going this way, you get powered up, and then you kind of jump out and do a toe side 360 out this way. Haven't really landed it very well. If I had a bigger board, I could do it for sure, but Luca landed it like first try with a grab, of course.
You might have seen me trying that on my Instagram videos and wondered what that move was. I didn't do it yesterday, but I did try this little other thing randomly. I was riding the backwinded, and I did this little tweak, and then I came back to, I could have landed toe side riding, but I didn't know what I was doing.
I'm trying to think if there's any other pitfalls. I'm just going to go over the footage that I have. I got a little bit of footage of Q, who was out there. He was just happened to be working on these, or not working on them. He was just throwing a couple of these today, and I was like, hey, let me get a shot of you doing it. Some other footage, someone else doing it.
So this is a pretty good one. I do my race jibe, and then you can see I'm moving into the backwinding. You really want that wing to be at like a 45-degree angle. This is a pretty big wing. It's a 6.0, but to get that power, you do need the wing more vertical. This is one that I was talking about the pitfalls. I went too far and it sort of turned into a 360 and made me fall. I mentioned elongating the flatwater 360 to practice this move in the backwinding section, but an easier way is even just to elongate your race jibe. Because the hardest part about riding backwinded is staying in it for a long period of time. If you just do your race jibe, 5 seconds, then maybe 10 seconds, you get a little bit more comfortable with staying in this position, because you have to do a bunch of little micro adjustments when you're in this position to stay on foil and stay powered. It really helps to have a nice gust. It helps to have a tight canopy wing, and it helps to have a boom or hard handles. If not, you have to, sometimes I even take my hand off and put it on the bladder. I mentioned Q earlier, who was doing some backwinding on that day. Here's me literally putting my back to the wind, a different type of backwinding. And here's Q coming up on my right. He's riding my old 75-liter wing crap that he was borrowing from someone. That's the board I learned to wing on. So I asked Q if I could get some shots of him. He hasn't been winging that long, but he's a really good windfoiler and windsurfer. But yeah, so I grabbed the camera from the land. It only had about 3% battery left in it. And I was like, yeah, Q, give me a couple. We only got a couple of shots at this. Great thing about this is Q's goofy. So here you see him riding right hand forward, initiates his race jibe, gets his backwind, and then pops out of his race jibe. He didn't have a gust there, so that's probably why he had to bail early. The other thing I noticed with Q is he's keeping the wing a little bit horizontal. If he went a little bit more vertical, he probably would have had a little bit more power. But I saw him doing some longer rides when he was in gusts. But yeah, like I said, we only had 3% battery to work with, so this is what we got. We only got a few shots. Anyway, pretty cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
I'm going to be going on a road trip to Texas and then some of the other southern coast spots. Maybe then we might even go up to Carolina, look at Hatteras or Florida. We'll see. I might just come back. But I'm going to go visit my parents in Georgia. And so I don't know if I'll get a video out next week. Maybe. Hopefully I'm going to do some riding in Corpus Christi, my old stomping grounds. Maybe hook up with the kitesurfing.com guys. And yeah, we'll see. But peace out, guys. Try some backwinding. Tag me and let's see it.
I'll leave you with this shot of me winging in the lake last week, backwinding, and then hitting a fish and crashing.